Well then, welcome to today's episode of Flow Meter Guy, where the currents of wit and wisdom flow as we explore the journey of people building successful and unique businesses. Our guest has over 40 years of experience in optimizing building operations and is responsible for more than 400 projects for over 30 million square feet of facilities for educational, research, culture, healthcare, and corporate projects. Why, he's a published author and sought-after speaker. He often teaches certification seminars for commissioning and retrocommissioning professionals. So, whether a complex facility on a healthcare campus, an academia, a private industry, or a military base, Mr. Wiggins has expertise in making building performances at their best. Wow. Well, Stephen, welcome to our Atlanta facilities.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me to come by and drop by and see all the things that we do here at Instruments Direct.
So, what do you do for a living?
Well, I operate, actually used to manage a commissioning group, started a commissioning group at Newcomb and Boyd, and now we've moved me into a position called technical director. Which is a way of saying the old guy. Okay, so I'm the official old guy now, which is kind of ironic because, as you pointed out, I started off in this industry at a very early age. My father owned his own mechanical electrical company.
Okay.
And I started off at 13 years of age working for him.
13 years of age.
And now, of course, that would be after school and then during the summers. He still made me go to school. But I worked for him for a number of years. Got my master electrical license when I was 17. Got my master mechanical license when I was 18.
Oh, goodness.
And I bought my father's company when I was 19. And kind of a weird young guy, as you can imagine.
Yeah, very much an entrepreneurial there.
Yeah, and ran that company for around 8 years and sold it eventually.
Did you? And
then went to work for Headquarters Air Force Engineering Services Center and worked for them, for the Air Force for about 10 years at Headquarters Air Force with a group called Seabird. And we traveled all over the world working on the Air Force's portfolio of facilities. Any critical building that had issues, we would go into the location and we would do training classes for the operators of the building. And then we would take those operators and actually go into the building that had issues. And in today's phraseology, we would say we retro-commissioned it.
So let's talk about what are the issues that a building would have.
Well, any number of things, as you can imagine. Of course, I started this early enough. There was no such thing as DDC.
Yeah.
So I played around with a lot of pneumatic controls and then moved on to electric controls and then electronic controls and then eventually into digital controls. So it was a little bit of everything. Along that line, first year I went over to Europe doing some work, and one of the guys was telling me, he said, "Mr. Wiggins, we've got a building. We can't get into the control system." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, it's one of those newfangled digital control systems. And the guy that knew the password, he's left. And we can't get in."
Now what?
Yeah, and he said, "We don't know what to do." And he said, "We've listened to you do these training classes, and you've been fixing all these buildings that we, quite frankly, never thought would work."
Yeah.
And one of the guys had the idea, "Well, why don't you ask him?" And I said, "Well, okay, well, let's go look at it."
Yeah.
So we go over, and I said, "Well, what brand of system is it?" And he tells me. And I said, "Well, is this the USA version of that particular brand, or is this the European version?" And he said, "Well, this is the European version, actually the Germany brand." And I said, "Okay." I said, "You told me earlier," I said, "that you know how to speak German, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what's the, I'm thinking of phrases." And I said, "Well, what's the German word for administrator?"
Yeah.
Okay. And we had tried 3 or 4 passwords and they didn't work. And he tells me, and I said, "Okay." And I type it in. And I said, "What the heck?" So I type it in for the password, so the user and the password. And instantly the system comes up. And so to me, this speaks to what is an expert, quote unquote. And the guy looks at me and goes, oh my God, we knew you would be able to do it. And of course, I'm sitting here going, that was the luckiest thing.
Lucky guess,
right.
Huh?
And so I would say, maybe some of it is nothing ventured, nothing gained, kind of attitude. Yeah. You have to be somewhat of a risk taker. Maybe that's part of it, is to be an expert.
Risk taker, to be an expert. We got to make it work. And so you're optimizing a facility, and as we indicated here, there are all kinds of facilities then.
Right. Well, and I would say this, too. The one thing that I've always had the attitude over the years, as I learned from different people and all, is if it's already broke, I can't break it. It's already there, So the odds are the only thing I'm going to be able to do is fix it.
Yeah, you can't make it any worse, so
right.
Go for it.
Can't make it any worse. And so I think that's part of it also, is to say, okay, well, it's already broken. Now let's see if we can figure out how to fix it.
As far as your journey goes then, so you started out with your father, you moved on to the Air Force. Where'd you go after the Air Force?
When I left the Air Force, I actually went to work for a local rep dealer. I was going to grad school, so I moved to Birmingham, Alabama, and I was going to grad school. And the guy I worked for owned a Barbara Coleman control shop.
There you go.
And so it's kind of interesting there. Went to work for them, and I went to work in October of that year. And you have to be certified as a programmer. At least you had to be at that time for Barbara Coleman. And the course, the engineering course to get certified, took 30 days. And you went to the class, and you had to pass everything in those 30 days to be certified and be allowed to work as a engineer, a designing engineer, and a code writer. And so went to the class and had a number of interesting things happen to the class that were pretty neat. That some of it I really don't want to get into, but it was pretty good. Met some neat people. Graduated the class. They did tell me I was the first person to ever graduate early. I graduated 3 days early.
Wow.
And went back to Birmingham and went to grad school and worked there for about 3 or 4 months. Through a series of events happened. The vice president that I had met for Barbara Coleman at that time, a really nice guy, a guy named Brent Bernardi. Brent had to come to Birmingham to deal with one of the clients who was asking something be done for him to basically give him a national-wide contract. And anyway, Brett came down and met me again and said, "Oh, it's you again," and I was working on that project. To make a long story short, they ended up buying half of my time. And I ended up working for Barbara Coleman at a national level and the local level for about 6 months. And then after about 6 months of that, or maybe a little bit longer, they actually stole me, and I went to work for Barbara Coleman full time.
There you go.
And actually reported to Brett after that and all.
That's great.
So that was one of the great. Barbara Coleman was a special company, and they had a very, very great product, I felt like. System called Network 8000, one of the first DDC systems. It was kind of interesting. It was a system that I believe was beyond its age of anybody at that time. In 1988, it had block programming. You could have multiple users on the system at one time.
Ahead of its time.
Ahead of its time.
Yeah, for sure.
Very ahead of its time. And you see most companies now are just now getting into the block programming concept.
Right.
So.
Where'd you go from there?
So left them, and I moved to Atlanta. They moved me to Atlanta in 1985. I worked for them for about 6 months after I got here, and went to work for a company called EMC Engineers. One of the partners in that company was a friend that I'd met through a bunch of the government work I'd done over the years and all. And they hired me, and I worked directly for him. He's one of the original good guys, I think, in our industry, a guy named Carl Lundstrom. Don't know if you ever met Carl or not, but he's retired now, which a lot of my friends are, as you can imagine.
This happened at that age.
Yeah, it happens that way. But Carl was a very special person, one of the best controls guys I've ever worked with, and everything, just a top-notch guy.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So, and then you still stayed in Atlanta?
Stayed in Atlanta, worked for EMC for about 4 years. 1999, Newcomb and Boyd hired me to start their commissioning group, and I've been with them ever since. So
ever since then. And that's where I first bumped into you years ago.
Yep.
So with that in mind there, you really picked an interesting career, and it looks like you stayed stuck with it pretty much the whole time then.
Yeah, I tried to get out of it. When I went to grad school, I actually went to seminary and thought I was going to go into that arena. And when I got to the end of my my classes and got to that point, I looked at it, and the harder I tried to get out of this industry, it seemed like the harder it pulled.
Yeah.
And decided that this was where I was supposed to be at.
Well, apparently you're recognized around the world as the expert in the industry, and as you mentioned, you have traveled the world at various projects. Where are some interesting places you've gone?
HVAC's it's amazing. I never thought that a redneck beach bum would ever, travel and get to doing a lot of the things that I've done and seen. I've worked, like I said, with Headquarters Air Force. I spent 2 summers in Europe, worked all over Europe on their work. I have probably been to Hawaii close to 50, 60 times in my career. I would say for 40 years, I had at least one active project going on in some part of Hawaii.
Now, you may recall that was one of the first or second times we met that I had a new sales tech in the office, and we needed to call your company. We were going to call you up, call your cell phone. And we called early one morning, and a guy woke up. We woke up that was sleeping in Hawaii. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. We'd woken him up on the phone, and you were gracious enough not to hang up. You sat down on the phone at 3 in the morning in Hawaii and had a conversation with us about a particular project we were working on. So I always remembered that you're diligent, no matter if you have any sleep or not. We appreciate that.
Well, when you do travel, and it seems like my whole career I've traveled anywhere and everywhere. And you kind of realize everybody else is on a different time zone, most likely. As I said, I've been to Hawaii a lot, and there's a pretty good time zone difference when you're out there. And, I've been to Guam. A lot of people haven't been to Guam, but Guam's in the middle of nowhere.
Nowhere, for sure.
One side of Guam is the Pacific Ocean, the other side's the Indian Ocean, so you're pretty much in nowhere.
Literally in nowhere.
Yeah. And so I've been to Australia. I went down to Australia in 2008 and spoke at a national conference down there and did 4 training classes around the country on commissioning. Spent close to 5 weeks in Australia. Pretty neat place to go and visit. Great country.
That's another long flight.
Long flight, 21 hours at the time. Yeah. But I would tell you the Australian people were just such special people, so full of life and, just great people. I got to go out into the boonies and watch frog racing, So went fishing. I love to fish.
You're a big fisherman there.
And went fishing when I was over there. And actually, we were in the backwaters doing some fishing. I'd asked a guide to take me to the backwaters because I wanted to see what they were like there. We were fishing for barramundi. And had a croc actually come up to the boat and tried to grab a guy in the boat with us. And so, what you see on TV sometimes is pretty impressive.
Wow.
It's real,
Jeez.
But so HVAC, as the old saying goes, has been very good to me. It's taken me all around the world. I've got to see most of the world with it. Been to Korea, did a biological safety lab there a number of years ago. So.
Now, with all that knowledge, the other quest people are after you is on the training side.
Yes.
Now, so you're a volunteer with other organizations, and you do a lot of training. Tell me about some of those organizations.
Well, NEB. I've volunteered with NEB for, I guess close to 26, 27 years now, something like that.
And tell me a little bit about NEB. What does NEB do?
NEB used to stand for the National Environmental Balancing Bureau. But I would tell you that NEB is much more than that.
Is it?
We have, I think it's 7 or 8 certifications now.
Okay.
TAB, of course, was the first certification. Sound and vibration, clean rooms, fume hood certification, building envelope, commissioning, retrocommissioning, So
why do people need these certifications?
I started commissioning before. We actually, ASHRAE coined the phrase in 1985, at a meeting outside of Chicago Airport, and the phrase commissioning came up. Chuck Dorgan, one of the grandfathers of commissioning, was part of that. A bunch of other guys who've gone on before us now too were part of that. But when we started commissioning, there was no formal training of any kind.
Oh.
No one did any training, you know. And let's be honest, it was an industry that was developing and forming. So how do you train when you're not even sure what you are yet, you know? And NEB was the first organization in the world to certify commissioning providers. And I've always believed that it's great to have a bar, a standard that says, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to give you value if you're a client, invest money with us so that we can consult and help you succeed.
So the clients would be the building owners?
Building operators, yep. Like I said, headquarters, Air Force, you know, those kind of owners that own their own and operate their own buildings. Healthcare industry, data centers. I mean, I've worked in about every kind of critical building you can think of over the years.
So the training you did, you've hosted a variety of classes specifically.
NEB has a variety of classes, yes, and have presented different specialty classes and all, and still have a number of those that we still do and all. Matter of fact, I'll be teaching the National Retrocommissioning Seminar class in about 3 weeks up in Gaithersburg at headquarters for NEB.
Right.
We typically do the retro class and the new building commissioning class seminars at least once a year. And then we have other classes that we also for certified technicians and all. So,
what has COVID changed the industry before? Are we doing things different now because of that situation? Are we changing the testing, the rules, the type of building that we have now, or is it the same?
You know, it's interesting to me as an old guy to see, you know, for my whole life, there's been theories of what would happen if we actually had a pandemic and what impact would a pandemic have. And I've been really, really surprised the impact that COVID has had. I'm going to say, in my opinion, that it's not been good. It's been a negative impact. We had 2 events have happened in my career. Both of them, I think, were negative in their impact, not necessarily what they were.
Right.
If I go back to in my career, the first thing that happened that was interesting was this transition that we touched on earlier from pneumatics to digital controls.
Right.
I lived that transition, so I remember it very well. We were in pneumatic controls, and a couple of companies decided to go to electric controls. And at the same time, other companies said, we're going to skip electric controls because they're not that flexible, and we're going to have an electronic line of controls. Now, Barbara Coleman, the company that I ended up working for, was one of those companies. They had a set of electronic controls they call System 8000. And then when they did their digital line a couple of years later, they called it Network 8000. But their System 8000 series of controls were electronic. And you had pots and you had different things you could adjust. A lot of the forerunner sensors that would eventually go into the digital world were actually built and developed for the electronic world. Now, the electronic control system life was only about 2 to 3 years.
Really?
It was very short.
Really?
Because the digital control systems developed so fast and hit the market.
They were obsolete then.
They went obsolete in less than 5 years.
Really? Okay.
I mean, that was
fast.
For commercial building controls. Right. It was amazing. And here's the bad part about it. Here's the impact of that it had. At the time, the system experts in the building industry for HVAC were actually pneumatic controls guys.
Really?
A lot of those guys were pipe fitters or whatever.
Right.
And they had came up in the industry, gotten into the controls part of the industry, and they actually knew how a chiller worked. They knew how an air handler worked. They knew how systems worked.
Right.
Well, since they were the ones controlling it and programming with pneumatics, the operations of the system, They were the ones that did the test, and they were the ones that did the quality part of that, of checking things out. Well, when digital controls came in, as you can imagine, from pneumatics controls to digital controls, they were two completely different technologies.
Absolutely.
It was not an advancement of the technology was there. It was, you've got something that completely new and different that you have to learn.
For sure.
A vast majority of the senior people in the controls industry said, I am not going to go to that trouble. I'm at the end of my career.
Oh, goodness.
I'm going to retire. And they literally disappeared out of
All that knowledge lost.
Hundreds of years of knowledge.
Oh, goodness.
Right? So all of the senior people, within a matter of about 2 to 3 years, disappeared out of our industry. Now, this is not really good, but it's the truth. When I was growing up and coming along, most of the senior people in our industry would not teach a young guy. Okay?
Yeah.
Because they said it was job security.
How about that?
Sound familiar?
Yeah. How about that?
Okay.
How about that?
Well, what that transition did, that knowledge left and never got transferred. So it took us about 15 to 20 years to recover, and I'm not really sure we recovered completely from that, from that loss of knowledge.
Tremendous loss of knowledge.
Right. COVID, now let's fast forward to COVID. So 1988 to 92, let's say.
Right.
They had that happen. Then in 2020 to 22, we have this COVID thing happen.
Right.
And a lot of people, when work was shut down and people stopped doing what they were doing,
right,
a lot of our senior experts, again, looked at it and went, you know what? I'm not going back. And we lost
again
another vast amount of knowledge.
That's something.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest impact that COVID has had, is that we've lost a group of knowledge from a lot of good guys that chose not to continue their career, and they never transferred that knowledge. And as a commissioning guy, I get to see this on a daily basis. Okay? And what I'm seeing is that we do not have the systems experts at the controls company level specifically,
right,
that know how a system really should work. And I'm going to go to this point, understand the physics behind HVAC heat transfer. Okay? Most of the younger guys are excellent computer guys.
Right.
They know how to program a computer.
Right.
They know the computer
right.
language. They know how to do all those
right.
things. They can run wire. They can connect sensors. They can do all of those things. But they do not understand the physics of making a chiller work.
Right. The lost art.
Right. All of that stuff. And that knowledge hasn't been transferred. And the problem is, right now today, if you go out into the industry to try to find training, it's extremely limited and is not available. NEB is one of the institutions that's trying to change that, and does allow, have training classes and sells those and does all of it. Jim Boucher, who's a friend of both of you and I, a former NEB president, he's got some online training that he's doing, trying to fill that gap right now. So you see there's some people out there that's trying, but in my opinion, we really need every technical college in the country to embrace HVAC training, not the mechanical training, but actually the physics and controls and digital controls. How do you make a system really work? We need that knowledge in the industry bad.
We do. How we're going to get it?
Only way I know to do is training,
Training, and then the recruitment. These organizations are doing whatever they can to jump on the bandwagon to get the young people that have some mechanical aptitude, and get in the game.
In 2008, when I was working with NEB, I volunteered with NEB, and in 2010, I was the national president.
Right.
Went through what they call the chairs and everything. One of the things I was looking at is we knew that we were going to have an issue before COVID. We were projecting in 2008 that by 2020 we would have a shortfall of 188,000 HVAC people
Really?
that we would not have.
Really?
So we were looking in 2008, how do we fix that? And so one of the things that NEB did at the time, we went out and reached out to the technical colleges around and negotiated anyway a plan,
Right.
put it together to start training on commissioning
Right.
and controls and things at the technical level, with an ultimate goal of having certified technicians graduating from technical colleges so that the industry could hire them.
Right.
And that fell apart. It never got executed.
Well, here's the need is climate change, or whatever you want to call it. Things are getting hotter, things are getting colder. The demand, the cost of utilities are going up. There's definitely a need moving forward here. It's not going to be less, it's going to be more. There's no question about that.
To show you how bad it really is, and you're asking the impact of COVID, that projection of 188,000,
Right.
after COVID, the real number right now is over or right at 800,000 shortfall that we currently have right now today in the HVAC industry, jobs that we cannot find people to hire.
And so the end user just does not have optimized facilities because they can't provide the services to enhance their facilities.
Right.
So they have higher utility expenses.
Well, you know, the interesting thing, I've been retro-commissioning, like I said before,
Right.
there was anything called retro-commissioning, and have retro-commissioned a number of buildings. In my career, the buildings that we retro-commissioning, following what NEB has a standard 120, which is retro-commissioning of existing buildings.
Right.
It's an ANSI NEB standard. That process that's in that standard, historically for me, because that's the only records I've got,
Right.
Our buildings that we retro-commission typically will reduce their energy consumption by 18%, their gas consumption by 40%.
There you go.
Just through retro-commissioning. Now, there's even greater, reductions there, but it takes some capital investment.
Right.
So I'm talking about just investing in the retro-commissioning effort.
Mm-hmm.
You can stop wasting electrical energy and gas
Right.
to that level.
Right.
Another way of saying it is the people that we execute this work for historically have seen a ROI of the investment for retro-commissioning 18 months or less.
Of course, then why wouldn't everybody do it?
Great question, right? Great question. You would think everybody would want to do that.
You would think so, especially with the times the way they are now. You would absolutely think, and it's changed a lot. Over in Europe, the cost of utilities is even higher.
Even higher.
Higher there, and here it's starting to get people's attention slowly
Right.
but surely there. Well, good.
Yeah.
You can fix it all then, right?
Well, I would say the industry can. See, here's the problem. We don't have enough people that know how to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the need for the training, right? Is how do we impact the world positively? I mean, as I like to tell people, I'm probably as green as anybody you've ever met. It's
Yeah.
just that I don't run around screaming about it everywhere.
Right.
Okay? But I don't like the idea of wasting energy. I don't like the idea of wasting money.
Right.
And I don't like the idea of our clients not being comfortable.
Absolutely.
So what we've proven beyond the shadow of a doubt over the last 30 years, and there's a number of white papers that I can show
Right.
you about this, buildings that are not working properly consume more energy than the buildings that are actually working right.
How about that?
They fail
Yeah.
in a high consuming state. And because of that, that really plays into what you want to do. You go fix it, it actually consumes less energy. That's a great thing because it actually pays for itself.
It does.
And the people in the building are actually happier.
They are. Are you getting it all involved in the data center business?
We have a group in our company that does that. We've been doing that for about 20, 25 years now. My son actually works for our data center group.
Does he really?
Yeah. Matter of fact, we've got a bunch of work up in the Virginia area. We've done Texas. I mean, we've worked in Oregon. We've worked all over the country with data centers.
The data centers, we do a lot of business data centers. When you get down to it, they use a heck of a lot of water.
You better believe it.
And more than little cities sometimes, and the energy is just through the roof, and that's our internet.
Right.
We're not going to get any less, are we?
Right. Well, when I started the data center work, the largest data center I had ever done was 40 megawatts. Okay, and that's at that time that was a big data center, And then I remember a couple of years we had a 60 megawatt one, and we're like, oh wow, look how big this is. Last week I was up where we're doing work talking to a client up there, and he has 2 data centers coming up. One of them's 410 megawatts, and the other one's 420 megawatts. And so they're at a scale that's just astronomical.
And it's going to go up and up.
And going to go up
There's
and
no
up.
stopping.
Yeah, it was kind of by coincidence. I was listening to a documentary on AI because that's the next coming thing I think that we in this industry have got to work with is AI. And as I was watching the documentary, they actually said the county in Virginia that we're working in right now, Loudoun County, Virginia, it has the highest concentration of data centers in the world.
Wow.
And I don't know if you've been up that way, but
recently.
You go up there and you drive around, and everywhere you look, they're massive data centers. It's unbelievable.
Well, there's your business. Now, one of the things that you're known for, your personality, obviously, is your claim to fame. And we get you behind a podium. You are an eloquent speaker. You're an excellent trainer. I've had the opportunity to share a podium with you every now and then, and it's pretty difficult when I have to follow speaking up after him because he's just such a good audience capture. Now, we mentioned your skill set is your drive, obviously, and your endless energy. The same token there, your communications with people. The point I'm trying to make is this skill itself there, you went into other industries just to express that particular skill set. You want to share your messages, and you're sharing your messages through training. You're sharing your method through other personal things that you've done there. And on that note there too, you've taken some bops on the nose for delivering some of your messages at the same token there. So what do you feel about that? Is it most important to expel your message and take your lumps, or to just be quiet and stand back? What's your philosophy about that?
Maybe I'm dumb. There's a high probability of that, I guess. But I've always believed that, first of all, I love people. That's care
obvious.
About people.
You really do.
And I would say that's probably the biggest thing that motivates me. I love especially seeing young people learn and furthering their career. When I was young, as I said, most older people would not teach you anything.
Yeah.
And I made a promise to myself, if I ever got to the point where I had any knowledge, I was going to make sure I passed it on to anybody and everybody I could.
There you go.
But I think the other aspect of that is really caring about people and really like people. I love people. I want to see people advance, and I want to see them grow. And I think the best way for people in our industry to grow is through the proper knowledge and getting that proper knowledge out there. I tell people, if I ever meet a guy named Bob and he's in buildings operations, I'm going to beat the living daylights out of him. And they say, well, why are you going to do that, Wiggins? You're so laid back. And I said, well, every time that I start talking to someone and they're doing something incorrect, they say this, well, Bob, who used to work here, Bob's the one that showed us how to do this. So I've got to tell you a story about that. I went to a building to retro-commission it.
Right.
And I'm getting started, and we're going to the first air handler. And I opened the back door of the air handler, and there is a 2x4 wedged in the outside air dampers. Now, the 2x4 is about this long, and it's painted yellow. Okay? And so I open the door, and I see this 2x4 in the dampers, and the guy who's with me, I look at him, and I said, do you realize there's a yellow 2x4 stuck in the dampers? And he does this. Well, yeah, it's going to be about 50 degrees today. Okay, now I've told you, I love knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, he's got some, I don't know what this knowledge is, but I got to figure out what this is. And so I look at him and I go, well, can you tell me more about this? And he says, well, Bob, who used to work here, trained us how to do this. And he says, look over there. Yeah. And where he's pointing, I look over, and on this ledge, there a stack of 2x4s, different lengths, painted different colors. And he says, if it were going to get up to 60 today, we would have the blue 2x4 in there. If it's going to get above 70, we have the orange. And he had this whole series of pieces of 2x4.
That did the job.
And I looked at him and I said, well, I tell you what, one of our main accomplishments we're going to do on this air handler is we're going to get it fixed to where you don't need the 2x4s, that it automatically does what it needs to when it needs to do it. And you'll never have to use a painted 2x4 again. And so, those kind of stories, that kind of knowledge. And so I'll tell you one more story. You know me, anybody that knows me knows I got to tell stories. I was teaching a class in Germany in 1989, and one of the things I would do in that particular class is I teach people how to properly clean a coil. Because there is only one way to properly clean a coil. Well, that'd take too long to get into it, but hey, come to a training class and I'll be glad to show you. But what I was getting at is I would always ask this question, and I would say, is there anybody in here that knows how to properly clean a coil? Okay. And to that point in my career, I had never had anyone that would actually and could tell me the proper way. And that day in that class, it was in Zweibrücken, Germany. This girl in the back of the class raised her hand. She says, Mr. Wiggins, I know how to clean a coil properly.
Okay.
And I said, okay, hey, this is great. I said, well, young lady, can you step up here? I'll step down. You tell them how to clean a coil. Much to my surprise, she starts step by step telling the class the proper way to clean a coil.
Okay.
And she goes through the whole process and gets to the end of it, and she has this big grin on her face. And I look at her and I said, well, I'm dying. I've got to ask you this. I said, first of all, she's right. Okay. The great news is she's 100% correct. Hope you all were paying attention to what she said.
There you go.
And I looked at her and I said, who taught you how to do that? And she started laughing. She said, 18 months ago, you taught this same class in Louisiana. And she names the guy, says, so-and-so was in that class. She said, I worked for him for the last year, and he taught me how to do it right.
There you go.
So
it goes around.
Well, one thing it did for me is it showed me that how impactful that training can be. From Louisiana, United States, to Zweibrücken, Germany, here's that knowledge, going around the world.
There you go.
And so that invigorated me to be more aggressive in training.
There you go. You have a purpose.
There you go, right?
You have a purpose, and you've been rewarded.
Right.
It's come back. So there you go. Congratulations.
Right. So anyway, and I would say that that's the biggest impact COVID's had, is that we've now taken knowledge out of our industry, and our industry's got to figure a way out to inject that knowledge back into it.
Got it.
And I'm not quite sure how we do it.
Well, we're here.
Right.
We're here. We're making noise there, and that's why we're having conversations like this to maybe share this message. Some other people might pick this up, and as we said, if there's any young people that want to get into this industry, now's a pretty good time.
You better
the industry.
Yeah.
It pays good, and you can have lots of fun. And if you can be like this guy, you can travel around the world, and another 20 years, you go to different planets too, probably.
I was telling you about 2008 when we were doing research on how do we fill the gap of the missing people.
Yeah.
One of the things we did there was read a white paper, and we had a study that a group had done. I think they were out of Canada, but I'm not sure. Don't remember exactly. But their study said if two people at that time graduated high school, and one of those two people went into the trades,
right,
and one of them went into the medical to college to be a doctor, and both of them were successful.
Right.
So the guy who went from high school straight into the trades worked his way up and became a master and progressed through his normal progression through the trades. And then the guy who was going to be a doctor went to college, went to medical school, and became a doctor. At what age do you think that their total income would equal each other?
Oh, no.
55 years old.
Really?
55. The guy in the trades will have made more money than the doctor did until the doctor's 55.
How about that?
And
how about that?
So, is this a good career?
I guess so.
The way I like to tell people is you're most likely not going to get rich, but you're not going to starve.
You're not going to starve there.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. You've shared some great travels around the world, and I appreciate you taking the time, just the schedule that you have there. I can't see a way that you fit us into your agenda here. You ain't slowing down, young man, at all.
I got to, though. I'm starting to get that age where it's time to go fishing more.
Go fishing more, and the mileage, he probably owns airplanes now with all the miles that you have and traveling around the world.
Yeah.
No problem with that.
Yeah, I am multi-million a miler, so you can imagine.
So with that in mind, to wrap up some thoughts there, what are you going to do when you slow down? What's the next thing on your list?
I have 4 granddaughters younger than 6 years old.
Aha!
And as you can imagine, my wife of 51 years is the love of my life.
Yeah.
But my granddaughters are pretty darn close to
there
that.
You go.
Along with my son and my daughter.
There you go.
Spend time with them. Spend a lot more time fishing, hopefully.
A lot more time fishing.
I love to do projects, so I have a shop. Shop kind of guy and all that stuff. So I build things and all. So hopefully I'll be healthy enough to continue to build things and fish, until the good Lord says, okay, it's time to.
That's the time to rack it up there.
Yeah. Come fix the air conditioner up here. Hopefully it's not going to be I'm going to the other location.
Yeah, well, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come to today.
I'm so glad that you invited me to, and I appreciate your offer.
That's great. Let the fun continue. So this has been another episode of Flow Meter Guy. If you found this information of interest, click the like button and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you on the next video.